We had some major developments over the weekend and this morning, and some stories that we've been covering here. And joining me now to help me break down what's making the rounds today, NBC's chief White House correspondent, Hallie Jackson, is here. Great to have you on the panel, along with the co-host of PBS's In Principle, Amy Holmes. And Rolling Stone contributing editor Joe Levy is with us as well. Great to have you all here. Okay, so we begin with a story that came out late yesterday, a new allegation of purported sexual misconduct against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. This one dates back to his college years at Yale University. A woman who spoke to The New Yorker described an alleged unwanted drunken encounter with what she believes was Kavanaugh, although admits she didn't actually see him do it directly. He strongly denies it. What a mess. Yeah, what a mess. Thank you. That's a clean version of what I was thinking in my head. President Trump just weighed in on this over at the UN, called these latest allegations, quote, totally political. And that is what this whole debate has become. Whether you believe these women or you don't, it's become completely political because it's a Supreme Court confirmation hearing. It's not like a regular Me Too allegation. These have come up in the context of a Supreme Court confirmation proceeding. And so same way when Roy Moore was accused, those women were accused of being political operatives. That's what's happening to these women. I don't know. The latest report in The New Yorker, the woman, Deborah Ramirez, admits she hesitated to come forward because she had such large gaps in her memory. She said she took 6 days of carefully assessing her memories and consulting with her attorney and then decided to talk. She said 2 male students who she named were present and would back her up. They contacted them. They say they have no memory of it. And this is, as Blasey Ford, she identified 4 people who were at her alleged party with Brett Kavanaugh. Not one has backed her up. All have denied it, including this woman, Leland Kaiser, I think it's a woman, who is a friend of Christine Ford's and a Democrat, who said, I have no recollection of that whatsoever. So where does that leave us now? Because we're talking about the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right. And, we talk about this being politicized in part because it hasn't followed normal process, normal procedure, which would be to take these allegations to the Senate Judiciary Committee, where they have bipartisan investigators that do this for all judicial nominees to look into their background. We're getting this as 11th hour accusations. I think they need to be investigated. I think that all of the people involved need to be asked very careful questions. We've heard enough from pundits and politicians now. I think we need to hear from the people involved. I say move forward, hear from them. So all of us as Americans, this is our Supreme Court. These are our nominees. This is our law of the land that we can assess and judge for ourselves.
But should we just hear from them, or should we have an independent investigation? And I think that is a question that is with us right now. We're looking forward to a hearing on Thursday that is shaping up to be a he said, she said. With no investigation into these claims. Now, a second set of claims. Should we have an independent investigation of some kind?
Well, but here's the thing, Joe, and I really want viewers and our audience to understand this in terms of investigation. What the FBI does is they go into someone's background. They ask people around them, from their, elementary school teacher to their babysitter, everything about. They have this very thick file of what should be top secret information in terms of background.
Is this person a national security threat? Is what they're trying to figure out. They're not trying to figure out all your bad deeds.
And the FBI,
they're not a super secret special police force to investigate super secret, really bad things the nominee may have done. That's why we have congressional investigators.
And
the Republicans actually are investigating the Christine Blasey Ford allegations, and the Democrats have refused to do so. They're standing there in protest saying the FBI needs to do it, which doesn't really help us. She's going to show up and testify, maybe. She says it looks like she may. It's not guaranteed. But the Republicans now are suggesting this was all a head fake, that she's actually not going to be there on Thursday, that the Democrats, she's represented by Democrat operatives. These Democratic operatives, these lawyers are very political who she chose.
A former lawyer who helped advise Anita Hill, for example.
One of her lawyers denied that it was sexual harassment when Bill Clinton allegedly exposed himself to Paula Jones. That woman saw sexual harassment very differently when the accused was a Democrat. All right, so Christine Blasey Ford did herself no favors by aligning with these partisan operatives, in my view. She should have found 8 political lawyers who could have helped her navigate this.
In all fairness, Brett Kavanaugh also saw things differently in the Clinton investigation. I mean, his positions have changed as well.
What do you mean? What are you saying?
Kavanaugh thought that these were impeachable offenses. He was very clear about the Ken Starr investigation.
He's saying he didn't do it, Joe. He's not saying that those allegations against him amount to nothing if he did. He's saying he didn't do it.
I'm just saying the positions on both sides have changed over time.
Absolutely not. You have no evidence for that, none whatsoever. What he's saying is he didn't do the thing he's being accused of. He's not trying to justify it if it's proven. Go ahead, Hallie.
Well, I think what you might be referring to is some of the memos that he wrote back when he was working on the Kenneth Starr investigation, specifically about Bill Clinton, which he has then distanced himself from and said his views have evolved over time. Not speaking at all to this direct allegation, but Megyn, you started the show talking about politics in this. And let me tell you, based on my reporting from the other job that I do over at the White House, the president you will see this week a different tone from this White House than you have seen before. Remember, for 5 days after the Christine Blasey Ford allegation first came out, a week ago now, the president, the White House largely stayed out of it.
They held his fire.
They let the Senate Judiciary Committee deal with it.
And the Trump aides thought it was a miracle he held his fire.
This is a change overnight. We have seen the White House now come out more aggressively against both of these accusers. The president is already talking about it. By the way, when he's here for an event that has nothing to do with domestic politics.
No, he's getting ready to fight. And look, he can fight because it's his nominee, but the way in which he chose to fight was completely Trumpian last week and utterly diminishing of all victims of sexual assault. We don't know whether Christine Blasey Ford is such a victim, okay? That must be stated. In my view, the Me Too movement does not mean all women must be believed. All women must get a fair hearing. They must be listened to with an open mind. But it is also true that I believe, is my own belief, that the vast majority of women who come forward with these allegations are telling the truth because they have such skin in the game if they do this and it's not true. But some lie. We've seen that. And so let's have an open, fair hearing and let the people make up their minds after they hear her testify and him too. He too is entitled to due process.
And Megyn, I do want to back up your point there that I think that this is also a test of the Me Too movement. Can it be fair to all parties involved? And
if we go too far and deny due process in a case like this where you have a Supreme Court seat at issue and politics clearly are at play because people feel so strongly about issues like abortion and so on that the Supreme Court will weigh in on. What does that do to the Me Too movement?
It politicizes it and it diminishes, claims coming forward. I think that is a real risk, what we're seeing in the next week.
Kellyanne Conway said this morning, an advisor to the president, a senior advisor in the White House, she said, I don't know, and I'm paraphrasing her remarks, she said, I don't know that one man's shoulders should bear the weight of the Me Too movement. And that gives you a prism, I think, into the thinking inside the West Wing as to how they view that as it relates to this sort of broader societal cultural moment that we're in.
And we also don't do collective punishment. We don't make one man bear the sins of everyone else.
Absolutely right. And I think the movement changed America in that we finally started to listen to these alleged victims come forward and people get to make up their minds about whether they believe the women in any given case or they don't. I mean, Les Moonves was actually doing okay after the first Ronan Farrow report. It wasn't until the second one dropped that things changed for Les Moonves. The American people are open-minded. They wait. One of the key things is assessing somebody's credibility when they listen to the testimonials and see for themselves the body language, the tone, how they answer questions. And we'll now have that, I hope, on Thursday. But this rush to judgment on both sides. Grassley, the head of the committee, saying she's mixed up. And then Gillibrand, senator from New York, saying, I believe her. And then you've got the woman from Hawaii, Senator Mazie Hirono, saying, women need to be believed. Men need to shut up and step up. Look, if he's been wrongly accused of attempted rape, he does not need to shut up. He needs to defend himself. And we need to be, at least, if you're a U.S. senator, please give us at least the semblance of fairness, okay? Just at least the appearance of fairness to both sides would be really appreciated. Okay.